So this is a bit of a weird first video. I'm talking over RuneScape gameplay, not because I'm about to become a full-time RuneScape YouTuber, but because I want to get better at speaking. That's pretty much it. I'm fine thinking about things, I'm fine writing them down, I can sit with a problem, work through it, and eventually get to something useful. But saying those thoughts out loud in a way that actually makes sense to another human is a completely different skill. I ramble, I over explain, I lose the point halfway through a sentence, and sometimes I start talking and it feels like my brain's just click log out. So this channel is me trying to get better at that. I work as a software developer, and the longer I do this job, the more I realize that writing code is only part of the job. You need to understand the code, fix bugs, build features, and make decent technical decisions, obviously. But you also need to be able to explain things. You need to explain why something broke, why a simple looking change is somehow not simple at all, how to give feedback in code reviews without sounding like you're trying to win a duel in Al Kharid, how to talk through trade-offs with people who don't live in the same tiny corner of the code base as you. And honestly, day-to-day development already feels a lot like RuneScape. Sometimes you start with what looks like a tiny quest, and 20 minutes later you need 3 random items, approval from another team, access to a system you've never heard of, and you're somehow on a wiki page from 2017 wondering how you got there. Sometimes a ticket looks small, but in turn, it turns into the dev version of One Small Favour. Sometimes your build fails for no obvious reason, which feels a lot like getting attacked by a random event when you're just there trying to mind your own business. And sometimes you spend the whole day doing work that looks boring from the outside, but it's actually useful. Refactoring, testing, accessibility fixes, documentation. It's not exactly bossing, but it's like training agility. Slightly painful, not very glamorous, but eventually you're glad you did it. That's the kind of stuff I want to talk about. And I think RuneScape is a good background for this, because it's familiar and slow enough that it doesn't need to be the whole point. A lot of the game's just repeating small actions until, after a while, you realize you've actually made progress, which is basically how getting better at speaking works. You don't become a better speaker by thinking about speaking. You get better by actually speaking, listening back, cringing a bit, noticing what went wrong, and trying again. So I guess I'm just trying to get some communication XP. Sadly, I don't think there's going to be a level up firework animation after every video, but let's keep moving. In future videos, I want to talk about what RuneScape has taught me about grinding as a developer, not in a fake motivational way, but in the boring, realistic sense that consistency and slow progress usually beats waiting for some huge breakthrough. I also want to talk about why a tech lead is basically just a support skill. It's not about doing more damage yourself, it's about enabling your party, helping people stay alive, pointing out mechanics, making sure everyone knows what they're doing, and occasionally accepting that someone is absolutely going to stand in the fire anyway. I'll probably talk about code reviews too, because code reviews can feel weirdly like PvP. People get defensive, egos come out, suddenly a comment about naming turns into someone protecting their honor at the Grand Exchange. But it doesn't have to be like that. A good review should make the work better without making the person feel worse. I also want to talk about how development is mostly questing. You get vague objectives, you hit weird blockers, you talk to NPCs, also known as stakeholders. You find out that the thing you're asked to do is not quite the thing that people actually need. And yes, of course, we'll definitely talk about AI. Tools like ChatGPT and Claude are basically Alt1 or RuneLite plugins. They're really helpful, they speed things up, they make certain information easier to see, they can point you in the right direction, but they don't play the game for you. You still need judgment, you still need to understand the problem, you still need to know when something looks wrong, and you still need to decide whether a suggestion is actually useful or whether it just sounds useful because the AI has written it confidently. That's probably the general vibe of this channel. Development, communication, leadership, AI, a bit of RuneScape, probably a few questionable decisions in the background. The point is not that I have everything figured out. The point is to practice explaining things, because as developers, it's very easy to hide behind the work. Write the code, close a ticket, move on, avoid saying too much. But the further you go, the more important it becomes to communicate clearly. Not in a weird corporate way, I'm not trying to walk into meetings casting corporate ancient magics, just clearly. What's the problem? What are the trade-offs? What do we know? What are we guessing? What should we do next? That sounds simple, but it's very hard to do well. It's like explaining a boss mechanic before the fight starts. You don't need a 30-minute documentary, you just need to say, when this happens, move here. Don't stand there. If this goes wrong, this is how we recover. That's the kind of clarity I want to get better at. So this channel is basically me practicing that in public with RuneScape in the background to make it feel a bit less intense. And if the first few videos are rough, that's fine, that's kind of the point. I'm not trying to sound polished straight away, I'm trying to build the habit of speaking, explaining, and getting a little bit better each time. So if for some reason you're watching this, welcome. This is going to be a low pressure place where I talk through software development, communication, leadership, and whatever questionable activity I'm doing on screen at the time. And hopefully over time I'll get better at saying what I actually mean. That's the goal. Anyway, thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.